Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the gentleman for yielding. I rise in opposition to this ill-advised rule. Number one, we have a rule that is allowing us to somehow consider an appropriations bill before we even have a budget. There is no budget, Madam Speaker. My friends on the other side of the aisle, the Democrats, don't even want a speed bump as they drive down the road to national bankruptcy. We're supposed to have a budget before we have appropriations bills. And in fact, I think the Democratic chairman of the Budget Committee said it best when he said, quote, "If you can't budget, you can't govern." Well, according to the House Budget Committee, clearly the Democrats cannot govern. This year will mark the first time in history that the House has failed to even consider, much less pass, a budget, and yet we have a rule allowing us to spend yet more of the people's money. It also marks the second year in a row where the Democrats have chosen to bring these bills under closed rules. I myself had 6 different amendments. And when we're spending the people's money, the people's representatives ought to be heard. None of my 6 amendments would be heard, Madam Speaker, because the Rules Committee decided they would have a closed rule and they didn't want to hear for my amendments. So had I had an opportunity, Madam Speaker, I believe that the American people need to continue to focus on this practice of earmarking. The Republicans have taken an earmark moratorium. We said, you know what, the process is broken. Now, not every earmark is bad, Madam Speaker, but the process is broken. And yet the Democrats continue to bring them. And had I had an opportunity, I would have brought an amendment saying, you know what, maybe we should strike the earmark that the Budget Committee Chairman Spratt, has for a neighborhood community center in York County, South Carolina. I have no doubt that good things can be done with that money, Madam Speaker. But does the chairman of the Budget Committee and does this body really believe it's worth borrowing 41 cents on the dollar, mainly from the Chinese, and sending the bill to our children and grandchildren? I hope not, but this body will not be able to work its will. I would have introduced an amendment to strike the earmark from the gentlelady from Ohio, Representative Kilroy, who thought it was worth borrowing 41 cents on the dollar, mainly from the Chinese, and the bill to our children and grandchildren to put in the Columbus Bicentennial Bikeways West Side improvement in Columbus, Ohio. Madam Speaker, at some point the American people want to know, does their president, does their Congress, what part of broke don't they understand? Earmark after earmark after earmark. And I could go through the list that I tried to offer, but unfortunately can't offer under this closed rule. And funny, it seems to give the impression that the earmarks are being allowed for the senior members of the Democratic leadership and those who have very challenging races come November. I have no doubt it is a coincidence, but here it is. Yet no amendments can be offered. And when the gentleman from New York said he's bringing a rule that will allow us to debate a fiscally responsible bill, he failed to note it is 38.1% above the 2008 level. I mean, this is part of the spending spree that is bankrupting America. He conveniently only looks on a one-term basis, yet the American people have to pay on a multi-year basis. One more minute.
One more minute.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 more minute.
You would think, Madam Speaker, after this president and this Congress increased what we call non-defense discretionary spending, which is really garden variety government, not the entitlement programs, not the Pentagon, has increased 84% in just 2 years. At what point do you say enough is enough? And that's why Republicans every week are bringing forth another proposal under the U-Cut program to say, let's start saving some money. And so, as you heard from the gentleman from Georgia, this week is the Advanced Earned Income Tax Credit frankly brought by a Democrat who now apparently has decided to abandon his own child and make it an orphan. But this is a program that could save taxpayers $1.1 billion. We need to vote down the rule, vote down the previous question, allow us today to make one small savings. Again, at least one small speed bump on the road to national bankruptcy, brought courtesy of our friends on the other side of the aisle. Reject the rule.
Gentleman's time has expired.